Attention all parents. Report to your local church. Report to your local therapist. Let them know it's going down.
Into my son's eyes will feel so bored. I felt it in my day. It was all about the pussy. If you go good, I linger on me. Never fucking liked it.
We ain't taking no more. We ain't taking no more. Yeah.
So sorry, mine.
Don't mess with me.
The children are
Don't mess
gone.
with me.
Don't mess with mine. Where the children are back for.
What the fuck in the
Now
alley?
making noise with the double pump.
When you point to the cross, when you double up. Double right, double right, hardcore.
Teenager.
Fucking bitches hands up. Catch me if you can. Something wrong with my dick in my hand.
We coming raw.
Generation number 8. We all about the
We smoking a kicky set.
What?
So sorry, mine. Bye. And the children are gone. You better know mine. Bye. Where the children are gone. I figured my life. Then I got it so fine. It's so pretty like me. Go figure one time fine. Now we'll blow y'all. Baptize them more. But the children are gone.
Something on the court. Something on the court. Fucking Gordy. Get your ass in the head with a 40. You wanna see more of me? I just told you about a bunch of them calls. Class. I already know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I know you call before.
Boom, ow, boom, boom, ow, boom, ow, boom, boom, ow. Wicked!
1, 2, 3, and I'm with the wicked. Style with the all
Wicked crew!
That's what you do. Cause I got everybody coming to the mojo. Wicked.
Size!
Being all about that.
Truck full of knives!
Hang down, hang down, hang down, hang down.
Boom, boom, boom!
And it's enough to
Dum, dum, dum!
before us. Looking for the one that did it.
The light kid, oh no, you're never gonna get it!
Look for the one with the Batman
I
skin.
won't choke on the Buffalo Bills!
Sitting at the perfect chillin'.
Larry Parker just got too big!
Oh, what a feeling, so check that fool and pass me the pill. I'll start looking like,
Oh, nigga!
like it, dig it, baby. Cut that tattoo, baby, dig it. Get with it.
All I wanna do is live!
All I wanna do is live.
Come on!
All I wanna do is live. All I wanna do is live. Let them know, John.
All I want to do, all I want to do,
Stop
I want to
fucking with
live.
me, bitch.
Yeah!
Welcome to the, I was going to say extreme this just then. Welcome to the stream, guys. Did I say it again? It's Sunday here in New Zealand. It's 1:30 p.m. and it's quite a nice day. Wherever you are, I hope your day's going well. And it's been well, and hopefully it'll be well going throughout the week. Tomorrow being Monday for us, and probably Saturday for you guys, Sunday for you guys. So today we're going to be looking at a whole bunch of little, videos and stories from, witness testimonies, right? Kids who went through, the camps in World War II, Nazi camps. And a lot of times people will like excuse, oh, it didn't happen, or this, or they're lying. That is that. We're going to be looking at awesome testimonies. Well, not awesome, terrible testimonies from these kids who went there. And it's been, since 45. So, was it like 80 years now almost? Or is 80 years? And there's so many till it closed down, right? So we're going to be looking at some of the stories from them, both male and female kids, children. And also one of the to start, I want to look at this most recent thing, right? One of the things that's been happening around the world since in the last year has been this really uprising against anything Israel, anything Jewish, or just humanity, right? And so in Australia, this this lady who's a professor at a university, of course, she's Islamic, Muslim, right? And living in Australia, getting paid really well, and starts, saying terrible things. It's amazing how like people like to leave their country and then they are welcome to another country there to because we in the West are very tolerant, right? We go, okay, anybody can come in as long as you follow our guidelines, which is love each other, right? Treat other people with respect, and if you don't, we'll lock you up, right? If you're committing crimes and such. But we don't want you here mouthing about, oh, this person's evil, that person's evil, right? And do your own rubbish, minority freaking, or in this case in Islam, it's like majority, right? Rubbish about hate towards Christians or Muslims, Christians, Jewish people, Israelis, or Hindus, right? Because Islam treats everybody else as dog shit. Everybody. Yeah. Pagans, right? I'm not a pagan, I'm a heathen. Pagan, someone who believes in multiple gods. I don't, right? And I'm not a Christian or a Hindu, so I'm not religious, but like I'm still hated because, well, I don't believe in Islam, right? Or Muhammad or Allah, or whatever. Bullshit. All right, so let's get on with this one. So this is like TV host calls out Macquarie University academic over anti-Israel post.
Let's talk about New Year's. Did you make a...
Hold on. I think I have it on mute. Sounds like it's on mute. Give me one moment here, guys. I think this thing is...
Let's talk about New Year's.
Nope,
Did you...
Still is. Hold on. Let's stop sharing that, and we'll come back to that and find out why is it on mute. Weird. Refresh. Yes, it is on mute. It's mute on the top of the. If you guys know, you can actually mute the tab. And I was muting the tab because I was checking something earlier. So, and it takes ages to try to get back to it and go, oh, don't. Where's the button for unmuting it? So here we go. So this is from Australia. It came out 3 days ago. If it all...
Let's talk about New Year's. Did you make a New Year's resolution? Most people resolve to, lose weight, maybe get up earlier, read more books. Others, though, have different kinds of dreams, like Macquarie University academic Dr. Abdul Fattah. Her New Year's resolution, posted on Twitter, went like this: May 2025 be the end of Israel. Now, I'm not sure the 7.2 million Jews living in Israel would share her hopes, but that's the beauty of diversity, right? Dr. Abdul Fattah was a judging panel chair for last year's Multicultural New South Wales Award. Say it with me: diversity is our strength. Dr. Abdul Fattah was so excited about her 2025 resolution for the destruction of Israel, she couldn't even wait until today to post it. The tweet was fired off the day after Christmas. Peace and goodwill toward all men evidently doesn't go that far. But there was more. Dr. Abdul Fattah...
Like I said, they hate everything, right? Like on the day after, like they couldn't even wait. This is a person that's getting paid by Australian taxpayers. So if I was the Prime Minister, I'll be going, let's look into her and let's deport her. See, you shouldn't be getting paid to say that sort of shit in my country. About 7.2 million people that are from that country, in my country. So freedom of speech aside, bye. You can go back to your country and say that in your country, but not in my country. See, that's what I would do if I was a leader of Australia. And people go, yeah, but nah. Go say it in your own safe place, right? This is why I think like this whole diversity is our strength is bullshit. I think see, if you're not part of the culture, which is the Western culture, which is good peace and goodwill to all men, right? Like we'll tolerate tolerance, we'll live with you, and we'll, you get along. But if you bring your bullshit, shitty pigsty swine mentality to countries, you just can stay back in your own country. The fact that you're actually making a living of the hardworking people, including the 7.2 million Jewish people, right, in Australia, their tax dollar, you just can get out. Ka kite, as we like to say in New Zealand.
Patar wrote, quote,
Or harera.
may it be the end of the US-Israeli imperial scourge on humanity. Right. So what did you hope for in the year ahead? Well, I hoped for good health, love, prosperity, the end of the Israeli imperialist scourge on humanity, the usual kind of stuff. But the imperialist scourge of humanity was, for the doctor, just a warm-up act. The university academic really hit her stride with the next line, quote, may we see the abolishment of the death cult of Zionism and the end of US empire, and finally a world where the slaughter, annihilation and torture of Palestinians is no longer daily routine.
One weird thing is, like, I posted this thing about the UN. There was a cartoon done, right? Like UN looking with a magnifying glass for genocide in Israel, right, in Palestine. Yet all these terrorists are behind them, like behind the guy, the United Nations, whatever, inspector. And I put that up on my Facebook, right? Just didn't say anything. Just I must have said like, right, HMM. And I got a response from someone I know locally, right? And it was like, oh, the genocide. And I was like, from what I've just researched in the last 3-4 months since I've been looking into this, because I got pissed off at Amnesty in New Zealand, right? Because the guy was so intolerant and was blaming Israel for everything, even though I could see with my own eyes and was shown with my own eyes by Islamic terrorists what they were doing, that it was Israel that was at fault. And so I decided to research for myself. And then I said, yeah, well, so all the torture that's going on in Palestine, this is why I want to put it up, is being done by Hamas and Hezbollah amongst their own people. There's videos of it recorded. They actually recorded videos of them torturing Gazans, not Palestinians, Gazans, people who actually live there, right, being tortured. But the arrogant, misinformed, brainless twits from the left don't even want to look beyond whatever the UN's saying. And of course, we know that the UN had sexual abuse victims of their workers were abusing victims in Africa, at schools, wherever they were working, with the refugees. United Nations people were doing that only a couple of years ago. And also the fact that United Nations vehicles, UNRWA, UNRWA, was being used to collect the hostages, right, and dead victims from Israel to cart back to Palestine, right, and Gaza, and often to, right, Lebanon and Iran and so on, wherever else, right, on UN freaking vans, right, funded vans. Also, the same UN schools, UNRWA schools, the people that work for them were also part of the massacre and hostage taking and the murderers and the rapists. Also, UN at those schools were teaching, right, their children to hate Israel. So these people who are like who don't really care about human beings, human lives, especially on the left, right, will go pro Palestine all the time, but they never look at exactly who's at fault, because they only just eat up whatever's been told to them, right? It's like what I used to be like that. That's why I'm so angry about this shit, because I used to be just like that. I would eat up everything that was just been given to me, right? Until about 20 years ago, when I went to film school, and one of my teachers said, you should just look behind that, just not take on, because we're looking at making documentaries, creating documentaries. Listen, whatever you're seeing on the news, always look at other sources. Always look at elsewhere, like other people, on the ground, not the people that you're getting, the reports on there, right? Behind the camera or writing that's, you got to find out where their beliefs lie at, right? What their motives are, because you just can't. Like this lady, right? She's an academic. She's getting paid by Australia taxpayers very highly, I'm sure, probably over 100,000 grand or something like that, right? By the taxpayer to teach other kids, uni kids. That's why university is so right now, right in the last 20 years, is so brain dead, because they're all looking for a safe space, but not about actually discourse, right? Questioning, like we used to do at uni, right? Like questioning. Well, why do you say that? Okay, well, where's your reasoning for that? Where is your research on that? Find me the reference points and let's discuss it. Now it's like, oh, it hurts me if you say that. Not too loud.
Now, I have to say, it's at this point that, as a parent whose child attends Macquarie University, you start to wonder if maybe you should have directed your son more towards doing a trade instead.
Yeah.
And you have to wonder, does Macquarie University have any Jewish students? Universities are always banging on about creating safe spaces, aren't they? How is Macquarie University a safe space for Jewish kids when you've got prominent academics calling for their homeland to be destroyed? But the university...
Imagine some professor here in New Zealand, and Maori dude getting up there and going, all white people are bad, right? Or death to England, right? Or death to China, all that. Would you feel safe? Would you not go, I'm going to pull out any funding that I'm going to give to you guys. I'm going to pull out my kids. I'm going to send my kids somewhere else where they're actually going to be taught education, not biased shit. Seriously, if I was in charge, you don't really want me to, and I don't want to be in charge, right? Too much headaches. But I would be seriously down hard on this sort of shit. Like straight away, I'd be like, yo, your funding's cut.
Academic wasn't done. She continued, quote, and to achieve that is to snowball collective liberation because the tentacles of Western imperialism oppress and dehumanize us all.
Then what the fuck are you doing in Australia, the West? A white nation, basically, just like New Zealand, right? Multicultural. Why are you here? This is what I said last time, right? They love to go into Western cultures, eat our money, live off our incomes, of our tax dollars, live well, drive in their cars and their, rich homes, all provided for by us, right? By Australian government, by Australian taxpayers. Then they want to bitch about it, about how bad our culture is. Then why don't you go back to your shithole countries? Honestly, I mean, that's an honest question, right? Why don't you go back home? Leave us to our ways. If our world is, if our countries, our way of life, our cultures are so terrible, pack your bags and go. You don't need to live in our country, right? You do not. We welcomed you because we thought you were nice people, but you're not. So go. Seriously, like why do these people come over and they want to create this conflict, right? Violence, brainwash people into thinking their way, thinking that their Islamic ways are the ways of that should be we should all take on, except they openly lie, cheat, and steal. I was watching a stream earlier, right? A live stream earlier about how, I mean, was it today or was it yesterday? How it's okay for Muslims to lie. It's like it's in their Quran. You can lie and cheat. And also, I remember I was saying the other day, like how in Fiji, right, to get Hindus to leave Hinduism and go to Islam, they would give them money and food. That's written in the freaking Quran. To give people free food and free money to get them to change their religion. So it's not a religion of like, hey, I believe in what you believe in. oh, I believe in this thing that you call, Allah, Muhammad. No, I'm only coming because you're giving me something to eat. It's kind of like China with their soft power. We want you to follow along our political thing and back us and at the UN and stuff. We'll build you some roads. It's not that we want to help you. No, it's because we want something in return. All right, it's just, yeah, having Christmas just being, we give gifts without expecting anything in return. If we get some, sweet, I turn up with whatever I got to give, and if I don't get nothing, or if I get less, I'm not worried because I gave out of my heart because of my love for my family, right? But this whole thing of it's just it's crazy, man. Like seriously, little that I've learned about Islam just made me think like how stupid a cult it is, right?
Ah, yes, the tentacles of Western imperialism. Those tentacles provided the good doctor with a taxpayer-funded research grant of $870,000, which he didn't hesitate to receive, I might add. I'm trying to get my head around the kind of oppression that sees you given almost $1 million of other people's money so you can complain about how oppressed you are.
Exactly, right? She got $1 million. Like, here's the thing, like, they get paid so highly, right? They get paid so highly. Academics, right? You're a professor, you get 100,000. Like a normal bloke, 30,000, 40,000, right? And that person's gonna love living in Australia, right? I know there's like a lot, like I have two brothers in Australia, and their families are there. They just love it. They have new citizenship. They won't get Australian citizenship because you're basically not allowed to now, but they're allowed to live there. They have homes there. They work hard, and they love it just as much as they love Fiji or New Zealand. But they're not there complaining about all this and this about Australia because they're happy to be there. They're provided a job, right? Two of my sister-in-laws are teachers. Like, what are they? They like kindergarten and like special needs teachers, right? Like that sort of area. Primary school teachers. And one's actually working from the last time I remember, she's working at far away in the rural areas, actually among Aboriginal kids, teaching them. Right? And I've got one of my brothers is an engineer. Another one's actually works for Coca-Cola. Right?
Thoughts and prayers. Dr. Abdul Fattah concluded her New Year's resolution with this: may every baby slaughtered in Zionism's genocide haunt you who openly support or acquiesce through your gutless silence. Now,
like I said, I would fire her on the spot and basically say, we don't want your violent rhetoric in our country, and we also do not want to be paying for it with our Australian dollars, right? Our Cuzzy bros over in Aussie, like we like to call them, our Aussie cousins across the ditch, shouldn't have to pay for your violent rhetoric. It's the same thing that goes to like if there's violent rhetoric in your mosques from overseas preachers that come in, they should be deported, right? Because violence feeds upon violence, and if there's young people listening to that violent rhetoric, they'll grow up to hate your country. And then they will cause domestic terrorism in your country, as we saw in Australia, in the US this past week, right? And a lot of people get hurt. It just reminded me of like there was a guy who ran like in Sydney, ran around in the mid-afternoon. He'd got an argument with his girlfriend or partner or wife, Muslim dude, and started knifing people in the street, like with a butcher knife. Started slashing at people in the street.
Call me gutless, call me boring. I just kind of think the hostages should be released. Anyway, you might have imagined Dr. Abdul Fattah would be feeling a little reticent about spewing that kind of anti-Israel bile. She's already been investigated by her employer after being involved in a kids' excursion to the anti-Israel encampment at Sydney University earlier this year.
Dude, why is she still allowed to teach then? Why is she still being paid? She should be on unpaid leave until she's been investigated. She's definitely a friggin' Islamist. Right?
Yeah, an excursion where children led each other in chants for an intifada against Israel. And the coalition raised the matter of,
like I said, preaching to the kids, right? Brainwashing the kids. That's why they love doing it. Like in Norway, right? I think it was Norway or Germany. In Norway, they got kids. The kids have to go to mosque and pray and learn the Muslim prayers, Islamic prayers, right? They have to bow down. In the guise of culture, cultural exchange. However, I saw a little post, a newspaper post the other day. We'll be looking at this later on in another stream. But these grown men basically forced this kid, Norwegian kid, right, 10-year-old, to prance around like a dog, and then they aped him with a stick afterwards. Are those the kind of people you want in your country, where they harm your children? Meaning this person as well falls into that. Because she's there brainwashing, calling for genocide of another country and another people with your children, your Western kids.
Generous taxpayer-funded grant in a recent Senate estimates hearing, suggesting maybe it should be clawed back. But as the academic's New Year's tweet demonstrates, those who rile against Israel have no fear of reprisals. They know that neither university vice-chancellors nor government ministers could give two stuffs about the anti-Israel comments, no matter how much they might tut-tut it publicly. The irony is that Dr. Abdul Fattah is a woman whose research specialty is Islamophobia. So while publicly wishing for Israel...
I'm going to laugh too much after this. So, but let me play this through. Like they love to hide behind Islamophobia, that bullshit rhetoric, that hey, you're being racist to me if you question what I believe in. But I can torture your kids. I can call for genocide. I can call for violence. I can preach violence in your country against you. Why you pay me? Oh, and that's Islamophobia, by the way. That's what they call it, Islamophobia.
Israel to be destroyed, she ponders reasons why people might have, concerns about Islam. Well, I can't imagine. Macquarie University issued a statement saying, and I quote, "The university is aware of comments made on social media by a member of its staff that may have caused concern and distress among some members of the community." The statement went on to say that the university had policies and procedures in place to balance its commitments, both to providing a safe and welcoming environment for all and to lawfully free speech and academic freedom.
See, Islam abuses our free speech and academic freedom laws. It uses it to its own benefit. So when it screams that you should kill all the infidels, which is anybody who isn't a Muslim, they say it's free speech. But if I do it, I'll be arrested. But if I'm a Muslim and I do it, it's free speech, bro. You're being Islamophobic, bro. Right? But if they do it, it's okay. This is why I think we need to really seriously look at how much freedom sometimes we need to give to Islam. Seriously, it's a hateful belief system that hates everything that is Western. So despite it hating West, it uses our Western culture against us, our freedoms against us, all the time, by calling it Islamophobia whenever we question them. Right? Like I said, a stick in your butt of a little child by a Muslim is Islamophobia, if you question that.
Don't you love policies and procedures and balancing the safety of students with academic freedom? I would submit that if you're having to balance the safety of students with, other considerations, you're not that committed to the safety of students. Now, this is not the first time that Abdul Fattah has come under fire for her anti-Israel activity. In November, the New South Wales Police Force posted on social media saying they would not tolerate Hezbollah flags at anti-Israel protests. But while you and I saw a post from police warning people don't promote terrorism, well, the Macquarie University academic, she saw something else. Dr. Abdul Fattah commented, and I quote, "Brought to you in the colours of Israel's flag," seeming to insinuate that the Australian police force was now acting on behalf of Israel. Now, it's true,
blue and white is even our police forces colours, right? Has been forever. Let me bring it up. It's like, oh, conspiracy theory, right? Anzac police. There you go. This is the colors of a police car. There's a bit of yellow in there as well. Look, white, blue. Blue always in the police, right? And of course, pitihi mana, police, right? That's probably one of the latest, by the way. Flash car. What else? We also have it looking like this. But there's always blue and white in there. So for her seeing, Aussie, like, because this is like the street cops, the yellow is for the highway patrol. Right? Look. What else? Our cops also dress in blue. Right? Yeah, blue and light blue. Right? All our female cops there. What else? The logo is also blue and white. Look, it's actually navy blue, and this one's a bit darker there. But usually it's a bit lighter. Right? Police of New Zealand, please. Pitihi mana o Aotearoa, New Zealand Police. All right. Oh, actually, I should look at the Aussie police, right? Because like we are talking about the Aussie police here. So Australian police. This is the Aussie police cars. Look, and they just have blue and white. I love the whole Islamic conspiracy theories, right? No, the only Islamic conspiracy theory you should believe is that they hate everyone.
Blue and white are the colours of the Israeli flag, but they're also the colours of Argentina, Greece, Finland, El Salvador, and the North Melbourne.
Apologies, guys.
Exists when New South Wales police can't even warn against supporting terrorism, without university academics seeing some kind of conspiracy. But Dr. Abdul Fattah is not the real problem here. The real problem is Macquarie University. What kind of academic institution continually hides behind policies and procedures when assessing rhetoric like this from a staff member charged with educating young minds? What kind of academic institution vacillates trying to find the right balance between the welfare of its Jewish students and a staff member's desire to call for the abolition of the world's only Jewish homeland? That a Macquarie academic can publicly wish for the end of Israel, and the university's vice-chancellor has to go scurrying away to find his policies and procedures manual in order to know what to do about it, tells you all you need to know about our tertiary institutions.
Same here.
They're places you'd think twice about sending your kids, and if you're Jewish, well, you'd give Macquarie University a very wide berth in 2025, wouldn't you? Now, for me, writing to the Vice-Chancellor at Macquarie University wasn't on my New Year's resolution list, but it is now. I get that different people can have different views on the Gaza conflict and the way in which it's being conducted, but staff at the institution where my son is being educated to openly call for the erasure of Israel, well, that's more than a disagreement over politics. It crosses a line. As a parent, you don't spend 18 years pouring your heart and soul into your kids, trying to raise them right, only to then send them off to university so that academics can fill their minds with hate. While Dr. Abdul Fattah can wish for the end of Israel in 2025 if she wishes, well, many parents like myself will wish for Macquarie University to explain why we should continue to send our kids there in 2025.
Just basically pull them out. And if you're funding them some other way, like with donations and stuff, stop doing it. Right? Speak with your wallet. That's the greatest thing you can do in any time, right? If you don't like something, and if you don't like somebody, right, you don't spend money there. You know, if you don't like what, like in comics, right, Marvel is producing, you just don't buy any more Marvel comics or DC comics. If you don't like what Netflix is putting out, you don't pay your subscription. Right? Disney, same deal, right? Let your money talk. All right, so let's get to our main subject of the day. Let me just find out. Okay, so this is a short minute one, and then we'll go into the deeper ones. Give me one sec, guys. Just bring it up. This. Let me. There we go. Okay, so we will put our little notice up, which is.
Seven.
Hold on, let me get to the start. Let me refresh that so we can get to right to the start of it.
I was only 7 when it all started. I could not go to school. I could not play outside with children like normal children do. I did not quite understand what anti-Semitism really meant. I just, did not have a life like a child should have.
Okay, and that's why I played the first video, right? So let me. Oh, gosh, that was Ruth.
I was only.
Okay, so that's Ruth, and now we're gonna watch. Sorry for that sound. I didn't expect that sound to pop up like that. Gosh, everything's. What is going on with my bandwidth? anytime you want to come on. Hello. Hold on. Not sure what's going on here, but I'll just check if it's being something in the background's running that's not good here. What is going on? All right, here we go. Sorry for that, guys.
It was a contest between who was going to come earlier, the death or the Americans.
We couldn't envisage what the end was going to be, what was going to happen to us.
There were rumors that the Americans are coming closer.
My mother got a message out to my father because the camps were not that far away initially in Buchenwald. They're near and said, "You have reason to live," and he understood that to mean that she was pregnant. And his brother, who was in camp with him, said, "What did you do to her? What a horrible thing to do! She can get not a situation that was survivable. It was immediate death."
In the summer of 1944, a massive Soviet offensive threatened to overrun Nazi strongholds throughout Poland.
The Russian army is getting close. They're within 50 miles.
Concentration camp commanders across Poland were ordered to evacuate with prisoners and head to the German interior.
They took us on a death march.
The reason it's called a death march is because you either march or you die.
Anybody who couldn't march, couldn't follow, was shot, and the body was thrown on the side of the road.
Some of us were very sick, and we didn't know whether we will make it.
I was about to stop. I was getting weaker and weaker.
My friends grabbed me in a fireman's lift and put me in the center of the column and dragged me along. Literally saved my life.
The girls that I shared the bread with formed a chair with their arms, and they carried me so I wouldn't die. Isn't that amazing?
People who were too weak or too old or too sick, who couldn't go on a forced march, were put in a basement in an infirmary and left. And that was my mother.
The Nazi regime was reluctant to give up its prisoners, in the belief they might still be useful in armament factories.
They still believed, even in January 1945, that they will somehow win the war.
There was a possibility prisoners could be used as a bargaining chip to save the Nazi regime. And they also didn't want stories of mass murder revealed to the rest of the world.
When we came to Buchenwald, only 400 of us of 10,000 remained alive, and I was one of them.
So, like they were saying, they threw those who couldn't make it, were shot and left on the side of the road. And animals, birds got to them. That's why you don't have evidence of them, because they're all gone. Their bones scattered to the winds, as we like to say, right? As the saying goes, because the limbs are torn by the animals. 10,000, man. And how many survived?
When we came to Buchenwald, only 400 of us of 10,000 remained alive. And
That's 9,600 died by the time they got to the camp. Shit.
I was one of them. the Buchenwald command got an order to eliminate the entire camp. There were 80,000 prisoners in Buchenwald at that time. 60,000 prisoners were executed. Now came our turn, the children's barrack. Just before we reached the gate,
If you look at the face, it looks, and I want to say this rudeness, but like looks alien, right? That's because it's starvation, the lack of food. I've seen that myself on my face when I've like try to starve myself. Like this is years ago, about 20 odd years ago or something like that, in the 20s, like 2020s. And I was like going, oh, I want my face to look like this and like this, skin and bones, right? So I can recognize that. So that's like, it's so sad to think that that's only one child of the thousands that were there, right? So you can see the hollow, you can see the forehead there, like the bone structure, right?
before we reached the gate, the siren started to sound. The Germans closed the gates and they ran for cover.
The tables had turned.
It was beginning to dawn on us that we hadn't seen a German now for a day or maybe two. There was a barbed wire. We were told that there was high voltage in the wire, and some Jew was desperate enough to throw himself at the high voltage fence, only to discover that there was no high voltage.
All the guards disappeared. And 3 o'clock in the afternoon on April 11th, 1945, 2 American soldiers walked into a barracks. The Messiah just arrived.
Our train was taken into Theresienstadt. Was a ghetto of German Jews and Czech Jews, and we were liberated 4 days later by the Russian army. We had typhoid, had all sorts of diseases.
We heard the sound of a tank.
Typhoid. All right, let me look up what typhoid is. I know it's bad. Memory serves me right, it's very bad. Typhoid. Typhoid fever. All right, let me rise this up. Okay, this is from the Mayo Clinic. Typhoid fever also called enteric fever is caused by salmonella bacteria. Now, salmonella is found in raw chicken. That's why you have to fully cook a chicken, all right? I've seen people on YouTube go, oh, you got to have like, medium rare chicken. Don't do it ever. Even though I've been taught that all my life. But when I remember going to my chef school, right? My first year at chef school, all right, cooking school. They said, make sure the chicken is fully cooked. And this is why. And they put us into like the diseases you can get from meat. And so they did a whole class on like what you can get, what diseases you got to look out for when it comes to meat, beef, swine, so on, right? Pork, deer. So the typhoid fever is rare in places where people carry the bacteria. It also is rare where water is treated to kill germs. Excuse me. Usually in the West, right? Because we have water treatment plants. It is also rare where water is treated to kill germs and where water waste disposal is managed. We just had a new one put down the road there a couple of years ago. maybe about 2-3 years ago. Big, huge tank underground, just for that reason, like for cleaning water before it gets into the sea, coming down all from the like land, from like the farms and all that, so it wouldn't pollute the water going into our estuary, right, into the ocean around our harbor and all that, because chemicals and like not human, like cow feces, animal feces, right? Because we have cows up on the hills and bulls and all that, sheep. So the water, they would, when the rain comes, it'll wash into the rivers, into the streams, into the creeks, and it'll all flow into the water, into the ocean. So we got a processor there that like it catches it and stops it from, so when it goes through, clean water goes out, and all the process gets dumped out into, and it goes off to the waste area. Right. One example of where typhoid fever is rare is the United States. Places with the highest number of cases or with regular outbreaks are in Africa and South Asia. It is a serious health threat, especially for children, in places where it is more common. All right. Food and water with bacteria in it cause typhoid fever. Close contact with a person who is carrying the salmonella bacteria also can cause typhoid fever. Symptoms include high fever, headaches, stomach pain, constipation, and diarrhea. Right? It's a fever, but it is a fever from from disease, from bacteria, caused by bacteria itself. Most people who have typhoid fever feel better about a week after they start treatment to kill bacteria, called antibiotics. But without treatment, there is a small chance of death from typhoid fever complications. Vaccines against typhoid fever can provide some protection, but they can't protect against all cases of illness caused by other strains of salmonella. Vaccines can help lower risk of getting typhoid fever. All right, there's a bit of a segue there about typhoid. And right, these survivors at those camps had it. Go back a bit here.
We heard the sound of a tank, very large sound. We thought they're going to kill us there. The first thing we noticed is the turret was not aimed at us. And the soldier jumped out. My father yelled, "Americans." The American soldier was a Jew, and he was from Brooklyn. He was our Messiah. And everybody singing, yelling, and hooting, and so forth. By then I was 8 years old.
The German soldiers threw the rifles away. There was church bells ringing. And the little girl came to me and with a hand like this. And in her hand was a painted egg. And she says, "It's Easter Sunday." 40 days and 40 nights in Auschwitz-Birkenau, we liberated Easter Sunday. Can't make it up, can you?
That is a British, and I'll put the link in the chat so you guys can, check it out later if you wish. Also, I mean, I put it up there so for later I can know where I can like time code it. All right, next. We got Ruth. This is Net. Okay. It always catch. Why do I have it at instant? I don't know what it is, but it's like it starts straight away on me on these little streams. Give me 1 sec. So this is another 1 minute. 60 seconds short.
Evicted from our house. A priest turned us in to the authorities because we were Jews. We were treated very badly in the schools. Life was very, very harsh for Jewish people at the time.
Okay, should we wait for put this one on later? This should come last. This is a longer one, so we'll get to him later. Here we go. So this is what happened right before. This has been colored, right? So whenever you see like a color image of the, these older videos of that's been colorized, right? Because the did I just play this? Because yeah, I did play this one. Hold on. So they've been colorized now, right? The black and white images with technology. Give me one sec. I keep getting the long ones. Okay. No, this is it. This is this is where we get into longer videos, right? We saw the short ones, almost clips, but this is where we get the long ones. So this is called The Children Who Survived Hitler's Holocaust. And this is from this link here. And this is from our history channel. Grab the head, get this. Let's get right to the start.
יצחק גורליק, בן 5. סמי קונפינו, 1 year old, יוגוסלביה. גולדה אביגיל, בת 15, לטביה.
In the Second World War, the Nazis and their fascist allies murdered 1.5 million Jewish children.
מאיר בולקה, בן 13, פולין. נינה אהרונוביץ', בת 12, בלגיה.
Killing children was part of a deliberate policy to wipe out the Jews of Europe.
ארנולד הירש, בן 17, גרמניה.
פיליפ אפלס.
So remember when I've been talking about destroying children's lives, right? The reason you destroy children's lives when they're innocent or when you kill them is because their line can never continue, or you're ruining their lives, and therefore the damage you do to them becomes generational. And that also causes harm to their children and their children, unless there's some sort of early intervention into correcting that damage, like through therapy, through medication, or through community or societal help. And that's really kind of like why I kind of like talk about kids a lot, is because I know that that's where a lot of things happen that continues to happen to other family members and to children wider. So when you harm a child, that's generational harm that's going to happen.
בן 14, יפן.
The children were starved, shot, or gassed in the death camps.
אתיה ובר, 5 years old, Czechoslovakia. Nina Ernkrantz, 7 years old, Poland.
But some children did survive. This film tells the story of their shattered childhood. In 1939, 8 million Jews lived in Europe. Many of them strictly upheld the traditions and rituals of Judaism, while others had little sense of their Jewish identity. Anti-Semitism was a constant threat, but when Adolf Hitler came to power in Germany, it became state policy. When Hitler invaded Poland in September 1939, it marked the beginning of the end for the Jews of Europe, and for Jewish children, it was the end of innocence.
I remember well the day the Germans marched into Krakow. We lived in a street which was one of the main streets in Krakow, and the German army moved into Krakow through that street. I remember standing at the window and watching the army moving in. I remember lorries full of soldiers. I remember armor being tanks and so on. It was for a child of 5, it was in fact quite exciting to see all this military movement just outside our home.
It was forbidden for Jews to go after 8 o'clock on the streets in the evening, and we had to stay at home. I remember I was looking through the window, seeing my friends playing football or just playing, and I was eager to catch their eyes, but it was rather difficult. They were absorbed in their play, and I had to be an onlooker from the first floor.
C'est aussi l'époque où pour la première fois de ma vie, j'ai eu faim. Et c'est peut-être la toute première fois que j'ai pris connaissance.
Okay, for those listening, this is lady talking about
to be an onlooker from the first floor.
C'est aussi l'époque où pour la première fois.
So this is a lady talking about when she was a kid. It was the first time in my life I was hungry.
De ma vie, j'ai eu faim. Et c'est peut-être la toute première fois que.
And the first time I realized I was Jewish.
J'ai pris connaissance du fait que j'étais juive. Et à un moment donné, j'ai vu une dame qui coupait.
She was 6 years old in 1939. Sophie Rachman from Belgium.
D'un grand pain.
One day I saw a woman cutting bread for her children.
Une tartine pour ses enfants. Et j'ai quitté la main.
I left my mother to go to her.
De maman pour aller vers cette dame. Et j'ai demandé.
I said, a piece of bread. May I have a piece of bread?
Un morceau de pain. Est-ce que je peux avoir un morceau de pain?
I don't know how she knew I was Jewish.
Je ne sais pas à quoi elle a vu que nous étions juifs.
Mais she said, dirty little Jew, go away. I have no bread for you. So she's 6 years old. For the first time, she's starving. And for the first time, she realizes she's Jewish. I remember a story, Ice-T, the rapper, right? Ice-T, told. He said a child doesn't know anything about racism until somebody comes out and there's 2 kids playing in a sandbox. This is like from the late 80s. I heard this, like it stuck with me, right? He was talking like in an interview or something. He said, say there's 2 kids playing together, playing cars in a sand pit, right? Like a sandbox. You can picture, right? I can picture myself like at our school, we had a sandbox and you dig little tunnels and stuff and pour water through and see if the water all goes through or whatever, with their little diggers, little matchbox kids, toys, cars. And he says, so there's a black kid and there's a white kid and they're playing on happily until an adult comes in and goes, well, you shouldn't be playing because he's a different color than you, or, or she's a different color than you. That's how racism starts. So until, like I always say, like it's adults who come in and start demoralizing children and basically harming children, that their world gets distorted. So she said, dirty little Jew, go away. I have no bread for you.
Il m'a dit, sale.
But also, you got to understand, her kids are there as well. Her kids are learning how to be racist towards Jewish people or anybody who's not a German, who is German at that point, 1939. Or was it? I think it was 36. No, 39.
Petit juif, va-t'en, je n'ai pas de pain pour toi.
The Germans were catching religious Jews and cutting off their beards in rather brutal circumstances. My grandfather, in order to avoid that, he decided to shave off his beard, and he came home, and I didn't recognize him, and I wouldn't let him into the house, into the room. We had kind of a chain onto the main door, so I opened it. I saw the strange man, which I didn't recognize, and of course, he was very upset about it. I didn't see the tragedy of it then, but of course I see it now.
I think it's Hasidic Jews, the Orthodox, Orthodox who have their beards and all that. You can see the curls. It's like it's very important. Like it's part of their culture, religious culture, right? Hindus do that as well. There's some Hindus who don't cut their hair. They have like I think it's Punjabis, sheiks. They have it all tied up. It's like losing their own thing. It's like, if you remember, like Samson and Delilah, right? All his powers in his hair. So it's kind of like, I guess that's how important it is. Like you lose all your, well, in New Zealand we call it mana. Your spiritual being. What makes you you.
We also heard something about Poland, that there is a terrible place. They send just people from the streets and take them away. And after a month or so, the family are getting telegrams. If you would like to have the ashes of your late husband, you have to pay so and so much money. So we could feel the fear more and more. And the whole atmosphere was of danger.
The Nazis and the local fascist militia began to systematically round up the Jews and force them out of their homes.
We were allowed to take 5 kilos with us, no more. Because we were going to work and we would be back. He was 8 years older. This is Samuel Shalev from Hungary. So this isn't just like those in Germany. They're like all their allies, right? All around, all the countries around. So if you're in Poland and you're a Jew, you're up and out, Where else? How many other places? Let me just find this out. Because I think there was like all the areas that Jews were rounded up. I should say not areas, countries, like all the countries, right? Countries that Jews were rounded up from by the Nazi and their allies. Here we go. So, because like they were saying Belgium, they were saying friggin' Hungary, right? So I was like going, wait, there's got to be, that's not just in Germany. Here we go. Right, so estimated pre-war population, estimated pre-war Jewish population, an estimated number of murdered Jews is per country during the Holocaust from 1930 to 1945, so 15 years, right? Poland, 3 million. All right. So there was pre-war Jewish population was 3.4 million. So out of 3.4 million, 400,000, right? 3.400 million. There was only 3 million were killed. Right? Soviet Union, there was 3 million there. 1 million were killed, right? In Russia. Romania, there was 757,000 and 287 were killed. Germany, right? There was 500,000 and 165 murdered. So, and then so on, right? So you guys can. So here's the countries that were involved. That, you know, Albania, had 250% were murdered, right? 1.8 in Norway, 758 murdered, half of it gone, right? Finland, 7. Finland, they were lucky in Finland, only 7. So they had 2,200. Luxembourg, right? 3.6, 1.2 were murdered. Estonia, 4.3, 1,000 were murdered. 4.3 thousand, 1,000 were murdered. Denmark, 7.8 thousand, 116 were murdered. This thing's annoying me. Hold on, might as well go there, this way. Italy, right? 46,000, 7.5 thousand were murdered. Bulgaria, 48,400. They were lucky in Bulgaria as well. 142 were only murdered. However, Yugoslavia, 68,500. 60,000 were murdered, which means there was only 8,500 left. Greece, very bad. 70,000, right? 58.8 thousand murdered. So what is it, like 11,200? Am I wrong? No. Is it 11,000? Something like that. Belgium, 90,000. 25,000 were murdered. Latvia, 93.5 thousand. 70,000 were murdered. Netherlands, 140,000. 102,000 were murdered. Right. Lithuania, 150,000. Only 5,000 remained out of 150,000. Austria, 206,000. 65,000 were murdered. France, 300,000. 76,000 were murdered. Czechoslovakia, 357,000. 260,000 were murdered. Hungary, 445,000. 270,000 were murdered. Germany, of course, we've just been there. But the worst was in Poland and Russia. Look at those numbers. We're back to Samuel Shilef from Hungary. All right, and we saw Hungary. How many were murdered in Hungary? All right, here's one of the survivors from 270,000 that were murdered. He's one of the 445,000. So he's one of the 45,000 that survived. Don't worry, they always said that. Don't worry, they always said that.
פקודה שלהם, אל תדאגו. היינו בשוק. כי
we were in a state of shock
ידענו שזה משהו...
because we knew something very bad was happening. Like if you notice your Jewish cousins, your Jewish community members or families, extended families and friends are suddenly being rounded up, you go, what's going on, man? You're going to be suspicious, right? And so he goes, because we knew something very bad was happening.
הוא רע מאוד קורה פה. והיינו בבהלה.
We were in a panic. We didn't know what to take. Remember, they had to take only 5 kilograms. So in New Zealand, they'll be like about, I don't know, 5 packs of meat, about that big. So it's not much at all, like a backpack.
קודם כל לא ידענו מה לקחת. אמא והדודה שלי.
Mother and my aunt, hold on, did I just miss something? Yeah, we knew something was very bad was happening.
והיינו בבהלה.
Right, we were in a panic. We didn't know what to take.
קודם כל לא ידענו מה לקחת. אמא.
Mother and my aunt didn't know.
והדודה שלי לא ידעו, זה כן לקחת, זה לא לקחת.
Take this, don't take that. What shall we take? Basically, what we call, they were in a tizzy, right? We only allowed 5 kgs. What are we going to take?
מה אני אקח?
We prepared all our belongings. We could take, I think, 40 or 50 kilos of belongings, and we had special clothes. I remember some were even double one because we thought maybe we need this second shirt. We tried to buy vitamins and berries for the camps. We had an idea where we are going. And then we were also cold and we had to leave our flat. And since then, the feeling of security, that you have a room over your head, that you belong somewhere, was lost forever. Of course, you got different flats, different roofs, but once the roof of your childhood was taken away, it's not anymore the same.
Mais la seule chose dont j'étais tout à fait consciente, c'est que
I was very aware that the past was the past.
Le passé était le passé et que j'entrais.
And I was entering something new, something totally new, which scared me.
Dans quelque chose de tout à fait nouveau qui me faisait très peur, mais que je devais accepter parce que mes parents me le demandaient.
But I had to accept it because my parents asked me to.
Des choses que je n'aurais peut-être pas acceptées en d'autres moments.
There were things I wouldn't have accepted at other times.
Mais,
remember, she's only 6 years old.
Et je pense que
but the danger was so great that even at, she was 8, sorry, my bad. The other guy was at 6. But the danger was so great that even at 8, you understood.
L'intensité du danger était telle qu'à 8 ans, on comprend, et j'ai fait cet effort, et
I made the effort.
Je l'ai accepté, je suis partie vers cette nouvelle vie sans savoir évidemment tout ce qui allait suivre.
I left for my new life not knowing what was to come.
Tout ce que je perdais.
All that I was losing and all that was going to happen to me.
Et tout ce qui allait m'arriver.
From all parts of Europe, the Jews were herded into transit camps and walled ghettos.
We arrived to a place, I had an idea what it is, and suddenly I saw a different world, especially for a child. Maybe it was interesting because suddenly, and everything was interesting. Even the comic things or gruesome things. I remember we were in queue for our so-called lunch. There was a soup which was so terribly, we children didn't want to eat it. And next to us, there were some old people, shabbily and little dirty dressed, and I couldn't understand why they are so dressed. And they begged us for our soup in this German word.
So he's basically saying that they just arrived and they were eating this, watered down, shabby soup. That the kids, kids are very picky, right? You understand that, right? If you've been around kids and if you've been a child, I know how I was picky as. Yet there's these older people there before them who are wanted. They don't care because they're starving. Imagine being like a child that age, thinking because kids are very you know how kids are like when it comes to like seeing something dirty and stuff. Go, what? Ew, why are you dirty and stuff, and not realizing that that's going to be them soon as well.
Nehmen Sie Suppe, are you taking your soup? Is sounding till today in my ears. And of course, we gave them the soup, but we couldn't understand that it's possible to be so hungry that they wanted the soup. For us, it was ridiculous, maybe. So later, I understood it.
In the ghettos, the Jews were made to work for the Germans. Adults were given starvation rations, but children got...
Remember what I said about the child earlier when we were looking at that boy's face? Look at the hollow eyes. It's just like the skin across the bone, right? Across the skull. The tightness there, even on him. Right? You can usually tell, like, if you've seen Westerners, right? Unless we're anorexic on purpose, right, or not, or fall into that, not anorexic on purpose, or like if somebody's suffering anorexia, right? But others who are just like because of like alcoholism and stuff like that, normally we aren't like this. We don't look gorgeous looking, and this is what evidence of starvation here it looks like. Just big eyes, hollowed out things, hollowed out hollow skin.
got nothing. Overcrowding and bad sanitation led to epidemics and death. The Germans regularly rounded up the Jews and made selections. Those least fit for work were sent off on trains to unknown destinations.
I do remember in the early part of the ghetto years playing with other children, and subsequently they were not there anymore. They were taken away during one of those deportations. I remember a cousin of ours whose wife and child was taken away, and he committed suicide. I remember that vividly. I hadn't seen him killing himself, but I was told that he hanged himself.
Janek's grandparents had already been selected. As a child of 8, Janek was in danger.
On that 13th of March, 1943, we woke up in the morning and the ghetto was surrounded by police. It was a policeman, I would guess, every 20, 30 yards. The gates were also very heavily guarded, so there was no way of escaping through the gates or anywhere else. So I was kind of trapped together with the old Jewish population. And so the problem was how to get out. And I remember distinctly two incidents. People were trying to get out through the sewage, and In fact, in front of the house where we were staying, there was a kind of a manhole, and there were a group of people around it. And I remember my father holding me in his arms, and they were considering escaping through the sewage. Then for some reason, he decided not to. So we went back to our house, which was just around the corner. And then I was told that I'll be put in a suitcase, and they will try to smuggle me out from the ghetto in the suitcase. I remember my father making holes in the suitcase so that I could breathe. And I was taken out of the ghetto. I remember looking through the holes of the suitcase and seeing the gates of the ghetto. And so I knew I was out.
Imagine your dad, like, basically going to to take you through the sewer, right? Through the manhole under the street, through a sewage. And remember, this is 1940, 1930s Germany, right? Or elsewhere, right? Hungary and so on. They don't have the same friggin' sanitation that we do now, right? And then the dad decides, hey, yeah, no, we're not going to do this, kid. We're going to go back home. And then your father puts you into a suitcase to escape the ghetto, right? Which is under German control, Nazi control. And there's eye holes put there so you can see and breathe, right? So you don't suffocate. And that's how he gets out.
In Budapest, all Jewish adults were forced from their homes at gunpoint. Although Shmuel Shelev could have escaped, he could not bear to be parted from his mother.
ואנחנו בוכים כולנו, וצעקות של הפשיסטים ההונגרים, הם היו יותר גרועים.
Okay, let's pop back up. Sorry, guys. Got caught out with trying to get a text up for the title of this video. And I missed because I wasn't expecting a foreign language just then.
Could not bear to be parted from his mother.
ואנחנו בוכים כולנו.
We were all crying and the Hungarian fascists were shouting. So he's in Hungary.
צעקות של הפשיסטים ההונגרים, הם היו יותר גרועים
They were worse than the SS. So he's talking about the Hungarian fascists. So the Hungary, there was about 444,000 Jews there after the war, before the war, right? So there was, afterwards, 770,000 were murdered. He's one of the survivors from there. So he's saying the Hungarian fascists were worse than the SS, the Nazi SS.
חיילי האס-אס. דוחפים אותנו.
Pushing us, and anyone who slowed down was shot.
מי שמפגר, יורים. ואני רואה.
I saw they were taking us towards the river, the Danube. Where's the Danube River? Hungary, Danube River. Okay, give me a. See what we got here. So this is the Danube, from what my quick search is showing, right? So this is the Danube River, also known as the Queen of European Rivers.
שלוקחים אותנו לכיוון הנהר דנובה. ואני אומר וחושב ואומר לאמי, הנה אני...
I said to my mother, I think they're going to shoot us by the river. Imagine being a 6-year-old kid and saying that to your mother.
חושב שלוקחים אותנו לירות בנו על שפת הדנובה. היהודים מדברים בינם ובין
The Jews were talking
עצמם בשורות, ושואלים את אמי,
and asking my mother,
למה היא לקחה אותי?
why she took me with her. So the other Jews were asking his mother, why did you take your kid with you?
איתה. והיא אומרת, מה זה?
She said, what do you mean? He's my son. He belongs to me.
למה אני לקחתי אותו? הרי הוא הבן שלי, הוא שייך לי. יותר ויותר
And they said to us over and over,
דיברו איתי ועם אמי. למה אתה הולך?
why are you going with your mother? You can go back.
לך עם האמא. אתה יכול לחזור בחזרה. אתה תישאר.
You will stay alive. So these fascists, these Hungarian fascists under Mussolini, right? If I remember right, Hungary was ruled by Mussolini. Where's my historical brain at? Hungarian fascists. Hungarian fascism party in 1939. Here we go. Britannia. So this is Encyclopedia Britannia. Arrow Cross Party, right? So there was a Hungarian organization. Hungarian fascist organization that controlled the Hungarian government from October 1944 to 1945. Now, however, it originated as a party of national will, founded by Fenrik Szalasi in 1935. Szalasi's party was quite small and underwent numerous reorganizations. It reconstituted itself under a new name and emerged early in 1939 as the Arrow Cross Party. In May 1939 national elections, it became the second most popular party, receiving about 30 seats in parliament. After World War II broke out, however, the Hungarian Prime Minister Paul Teleki, serving from Feb 39 to April 41, suppressed the Arrow Cross Party, imprisoning many of its followers, I guess. When the Germans occupied Hungary and set up the collaborationist government of Domi Satolje, March 1944. However, the Arrow Cross fortunes improved. The party received official approval from the new government and gained considerable popular support. So these were the guys who were in charge when this dude was being taken away with his mother. Trying to convince him, like, go back, you will stay alive if you go back. So that's pretty crazy, right? Saying to a child, leave your mother, you'll stay alive if you leave your mother.
בחיים. היא הולכת למוות.
She is going to die. Let him go.
תיפרדי ממנו. פתאום אמי שוחחה עם דודתי.
Suddenly my mother spoke to my aunt.
ובאה איזו אישה
By Gentile, they mean a non-Jewish person. So there was a Gentile woman with a cart.
עם עגלה. ואמי נתנה לה.
My mother gave the woman all her jewelry.
את כל התכשיטים שלה. וביקשה
and asked her to take me in the cart.
היא תיקח אותי בעגלה מתחת לקש. היה לה בעגלה.
She would take me under the straw in the cart. So basically there's a farmer, right? there's like Hungarian farmer lady with straw for her cattle or her sheep or her goats, and she's, on the same road, passing them by, that these Jews are, him and his mom and the other Jews are being taken along with by the Hungarians, fascists.
הקש, שהיא תיקח אותי בעגלה מתחת לקש,
So she took him and put him under the straw, hit his body, right, hit him, and put him on a train to Budapest.
תשים אותי על...
Is Budapest Romania? I'm sure Budapest is Romania. Because like Incredible, right, my comic book, she goes to Romania. So I remember it's been 2 years since I looked at the script, because that's when I was writing it. So Budapest is Hungary. Yeah, so Budapest in Hungary, not Romania. Apologies. Oh, by the way, one of my artists was just recently there in Budapest. And I was asking him, I should have realized when I was asking him, I should have remembered, because I was asking him, hey, is that in Romania? And he goes, no, yeah.
על הרכבת שנוסעת לבודפשט. והיא אמרה לי ש...
You can see he's having a difficult time recalling that, right? She told me I had to leave her. I had to go back, and she said,
אני מוכרח להיפרד. אני מוכרח ללכת בחזרה, כי היא אמרה לי...
You will live, and we don't know what's going to happen to us. Fuck. Imagine being a mum or dad, or even a brother or sister at that point, and realizing that if you don't let your, child, if you don't put him at this moment on a cart, basically give up everything you have, your child will also end up dead like you. So she basically bought his life with her jewelries. And that Romanian lady, or the Hungarian lady, I should say, hit his body, put him on a train, and that's how he's alive now. If he's still alive now, right? This is older video. As you can see, the colorization is probably about 80s or maybe even 90s. Let me see, what year was this made? 94, yeah. So this was first broadcast in 1994. 60 years later.
שאתה תחיה. אתה תחיה ואנחנו לא יודעים מה איתנו. אני נורא בכיתי.
I cried and cried, is what he just said. I remember when when mum was coming to New Zealand, I went through that, right? Because I was left in Fiji. And I remember just that, we'll come, I'll go get set up and we'll come and pick you up. And we did. Like a year later, I came back. But imagine never seeing your parents again, like him with his mum and his aunt, because there's no mention of his father, right? Or maybe they're gone somewhere else. They've been taken on some other death walk.
אני בעגלה נורא בכיתי.
I didn't notice, but they actually recreated that. So there's basically a lady with a cart You can see here, I didn't even notice it before because I was concentrating on what he was saying. She told me she told me I had to leave her. I had to go back, and she said,
ללכת בחזרה, כי היא אמרה לי
"You will live, and we don't know what's going to happen to us."
שאתה תחיה. אתה תחיה ואנחנו לא יודעים מה איתנו.
And I've read this before, but like I cried and I cried.
נורא בכיתי. אני בעגלה נורא בכיתי.
I kept crying in a cart.
והיא אמרה לי, תשתוק.
And the woman said, shut up, be quiet. This is the lady in the cart, right? Driving the cart. This thing up here.
תשתוק. תהיה בשקט. אבל לא יכולתי.
So, but I couldn't, so she shouted at me.
אז היא צעקה עליי. ואז הבנתי שאני צריך...
I realized and I had to stop crying and be silent.
להפסיק. אני צריך לשתוק.
So she must have been really, like, shut the hell up. You don't, and whatever else too. And he's suddenly realizing that, hey, this is serious, and he's got to be quiet and not, draw attention to them. Because remember, there's a whole line of people on this march, and he gets to live out of all those people.
So
he gets to be a survivor from this. One of the 270,000 Hungarians, Jews, who didn't die, who weren't murdered.
והיא נסעה איתי לכניסה.
She drove me to the station.
לתחנת הרכבת. באותו רגע שעליתי על הרכבת.
The minute I got on the train,
כאילו
it was as if my life had been cut in two. 6 years old, man. 6 years old. Never see his aunt. Never sees his mother again.
שחתכו את חיי עם סכין. אני זוכר, קראתי את כל המכתבים שהיו לי.
I tore up all my letters and all my photos, my family and mother. Holy shit. Imagine not having any evidence of their existence. Because, as you grow old, you forget faces. I have terrible, because I've had many head injuries. And I can't recall certain things. Like, I just can't. And imagine not being able to, imagine ripping up all the letters, all the photos, and having nothing. And now, as a child, because you're angry, right? Because this is what he's going through. This traumatic situation. His mom's he basically feels anger because it's like, why are you telling me to get away from you? Like, you're my mom, right? And your aunt, right? And also he's been, shouted at by this stranger who's been paid to save his life, but he doesn't understand as a 6-year-old. And so in his, and I've been like that myself, and that whole, as I remember back as a kid, like it's getting, angry at the parent, and then, everything's ruined. And then you realize he's ripped up everything, all that memory he's got, and now he's got nothing. Or does he, right? Is he going to put it together or what?
כל התמונות שהיו לי מהמשפחה, מאמא. גמרנו.
Finished, I ripped off the yellow star and stopped crying. So because all the Jews had to wear like a star, right? Star of David, which identified them as a Jewish person, which made them nothing of value. And that's how they were like in the streets, or were treated like shit. Right?
קראתי את הסימן הצהוב, את הטלאי הצהוב, ולא בכיתי יותר. ונהפכתי
I became a completely different boy.
לילד אחר לגמרי.
If I remember right, Shmuel was only 6 years old. Where was he? He was... Yeah, I think he was saying he was 6 years old way at the start. Let me just get this right. Because I know there was an 8-year-old. No, he was 8. Apologies. The Shmuel was 8. Right. There was one person who was 7. I mean, there was one person that was 6, and there was another, the lady was 8 as well.
Sophie Rechtman's parents took the agonizing decision to separate from their 6-year-old daughter. They handed her over to a Belgian Catholic couple while they hid elsewhere in Brussels.
Quand je suis rentrée,
Brussels. Where's is it? No, where is Brussels? Brussels. Brussels is in Belgium. All right, so Belgium. How many people died in Belgium? So she's a survivor of 25,000 that were killed in Belgium. She's one of 25,000. When I went to this host family,
pour la première fois dans cette famille d'accueil, je suis arrivée chez des gens extrêmement tristes.
this is Sophie speaking, I found myself with people who were extremely sad.
Très bon,
but
mais très triste.
Very good, but very sad.
Il est évident que dès l'instant où je suis entrée dans cette
It was clear from the minute I went to them
famille, j'ai dû oublier
that I had to forget I was Jewish.
que j'étais juive. Non seulement
Not only forget that I was Jewish, but forget what I was called.
j'ai dû oublier que j'étais juive, mais j'ai aussi dû oublier comment je m'appelle. Mon nom était Sophie.
My name was Sophie Granos. Granos. I became Simone Legrand.
Sophie Granos. Je suis devenue Simone Legrand.
Sophie was sent to a convent school.
Je n'ai été ni à communion.
I never went to communion or to confession. Remember, these guys, this family she's with is Catholic. The parents gave her up, just so, you know, and that's how she survived.
Ni à confesser. Je suis arrivée à passer par je ne sais où, mais je n'ai.
I managed to get by. I don't know how, but I never went.
J'ai jamais été.
I've been to confession, right? Like when I was a kid, you know, Hindu back then, just Indian, didn't really practice Hinduism, didn't practice anything really because I was just, just a heathen. But I was sent away to a boarding school, which happened to be Catholic, because I was having trouble at my public school. And so it was just part and parcel. You go to confession, forgive me, Father, for I've sinned, and say 5 Hail Marys and what have you, the rituals, right? Or our fathers. Never really understanding what it meant until years later, right? But yeah. So she managed to get by. I don't know how, but she's saying she never went to confession.
Et à un moment donné, la mère supérieure a dit,
Then there came a point when the mother superior, the head nun, said,
écoutez, je ne peux pas garder cet enfant.
Listen, I can't keep this child because she isn't like the others. It's basically like me, right? Like being amongst the whole group of like Maori and Pakeha kids, and I'm the only Indian there.
Parce qu'elle n'est pas comme les autres. J'étais très renfermée, je n'avais pas de contact.
I was uncommunicative, right? Like she wasn't talking, right?
Et j'avais très peur de ce monde catholique.
And I was very scared of the Catholic world all around me with their ritual. If you're not aware, if you haven't been around Catholic convents, right? The churches with the nuns, with the priests, and you're from a Jewish culture, or any culture, you'll find it very different. It's like if you're from like West and suddenly you're stuck, you're in Islamic country, you realize this is pretty strange, dude. So she's, as a child, right? She's finding herself there in this situation. I found it myself like in that situation as well. Like as I think I might have been about 8 or 9 when I was sent.
J'ai pleuré toutes les nuits.
Shit, I remember that myself, being at boarding school. I get it. I totally get it 100%. Being at convent, being at boarding school, I cried myself to sleep every night as well. So she says here, I cried every night. I was like, why the hell am I here? What do I do to be so far away from my friends, my family, like mom and dad? Why am I here? But not saying that, I'm just saying as a child, the head of a child, thinking of a child, because you feel like you're being punished instead of it's supposed to be good for you because you're trying to be protected. And so she probably feels like the same, right? She's like, my parents have thrown me away, right? I'm stuck here and nobody here is like me. They don't speak the way I speak. They don't value what I value. They don't even know me. They don't even probably want to get to know me. I didn't get to actually relax until about a year later or 6 months later when I was at the boarding school, because it felt alien to me. Not being able to go home at night, watch TV when I wanted to, watch the cat, whatever, hang out with my friends across the street, go play in the yard. I mean, you got to do all that, but it still felt alien.
Il n'y a pas une seule nuit où je n'ai pas pleuré.
There wasn't a single night I didn't cry.
Et pour qu'ils ne m'entendent pas pleurer dans la chambre,
and so they didn't hear me in their room,
qui était à 2 chambres de la mienne, je mordais.
I get that. I used to bite my pillow so as not to make any noise, basically crying into a pillow. Because I remember, like, with us, if we made any noise, the nuns would come, or the prefects would, the older kids would tell us to shut up. And here's the thing, I would hear the younger kids, like the 5-year-olds, and they were there as well, like the year 1s, year 2 classes, they would be crying at night as well because they miss their mom and dad. And I'd be like, I don't want to be a kid. Do I want to be like a child like them? No, I'm grown up. I'm older than them. She's basically the same age as those kids.
pour ne pas faire de bruit, pour ne pas sangloter. Je pleurais en silence.
I cried in silence, she says. Sophie says.
Donc il faut vraiment que je me fasse oublier qu'on ne m'entende.
But it was essential that essential that I forgot.
Pleurer et que je prenne le moins de place possible.
That I took as little space as possible.
Et que les gens qui s'occupent de moi
they had nothing to reproach me for. Basically, she's basically trying to shrink into a corner type thing. If you're a child, you know that you don't want to draw attention to yourself. You probably remember that yourself. If you've been bullied or you feel like you don't fit in, you will basically shrink, try not to draw attention. And that's what she's saying here, that they had nothing to reproach me for. Right?
Et rien à me reprocher.
Trying to do everything not to, to draw attention to herself.
Que je me fasse la plus petite possible.
That I made myself as small as I could. There you go. That I could blend in.
Que je m'efface.
Janek Weber's parents had found a Polish family who hid Janek in exchange for money. The family faced the death sentence if he were discovered.
We walked into that house. I was taken to their room, and I was told never to go to the window. I was told that it's, out of the 3 children which they had, the youngest one didn't know about my existence. And the 2 older ones, there were 2 girls, and they knew about me. I was locked into the room, and I was told that I'll be given food once a day. And I was told that I must be very quiet because nobody must know that I'm there. I was scared. She was quite strict with me. I knew that I had to do everything that I'm told because that was my only chance of surviving.
But most Jewish children had no chance of escape from the German roundups.
We knew in Theresienstadt, and we lived always in the atmosphere that there coming transport and leave transport. And the great fear was to be sent to the east. We didn't know what is the east, but we know that there is no answer. Nobody came back from the east. Till our day came, and we were also called to the transport to east, and we were sent to Auschwitz. When we arrived, we knew what it is.
And that's where we'll end part 1. And then we'll look at Auschwitz, and then there's another part we want to look at when they started hunting down the Nazis after the war, after they were liberated from the camps. So thank you for joining me today, guys, on kind of a sad one. But I think, you guys all understand that these are things that we need to remember going forth into the world, because, a lot of people try to, they think that these things didn't happen, but they did. My stepdad, my dad's father, actually fought in World War II. He was a minesweeper, right, for England and for the Allies, and he got frostbite. A minesweeper is basically someone who has a long broomstick, and they're supposed to poke the big, huge, giant, friggin' metal, floating mines, and they have things like, say about 10 centimeter little protruding, handles poking out of them, like broomstick handles poking out of that long. And so if they touch the side of a ship, it blows up, and therefore puts a hole in the side of the ship. And so Granddad, right, basically had to be on the side of the ship, of the canal, in the English Canal, poking away these ones to get them away so the ships could go past. He got frostbite. He ended up in Russia, at the Russian hospital to get treatment for his frostbite. And then when he came back home, he basically got hit by a car while crossing the road, going home from the pub. That's how we have our, our kind of like our family line when it comes all the way back to World War II and England and so on. But, people say like, at least we'll forget, right? But people tend to forget a lot, especially on the left. They tend to forget all the atrocities that has happened. And by forgetting the past, we tend to repeat. That's why every year in New Zealand, on I think it's the 15th, I always forget, 15th of April, we commemorate with Anzac Day. I think it's the 25th. Let me get that right. It's coming up this year soon, right? So Anzac Day, New Zealand. 2025 is what day? Where are you? Anzac Day. Yeah, 25th. 25th of April is Anzac Day, and it's Friday this year. So thank you for hanging out. And if wherever you are, be well, be safe. We'll get you on the next one. We'll put part 2 up. We'll let you know when it's coming on. And we'll see you soon. Ka kite anō. Be well wherever you are. Be safe. Have a good week, guys. Catch you next time.